Welcome boys, girls, Christine here with a discussion about Sea Lord Aislinn, 4th World War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires Tides of Torment DLC. We've gotten a bunch of information, including his character selection screen, as well as various bits of information in the blog. For faction effects, he has access to powerful Dragonships, can establish colonies and gift conquered regions to other High Elven factions, has access to Asur domination advancements, can issue provincial commandments without owning the entire province. Pretty important if you're only going to hold limited territory. For Warriors of Chaos, it works because of the constant vassals they have. I'm guessing Aislinn is not just going to vassalize every High Elven faction. Then he has improved maritime navigation, -1 turn local recruitment for ocean and sea elementals and merworms, minimum of 1 turn. Then, for Lord effects, and pretty relevant if you're going to be able to confederate them, you have sea-based attacks on port settlements. I'm guessing this is similar to Black Arcs. Campaign movement range plus 10% whilst at sea, 20% missile strength for other high elven for range high elven units when fighting at sea, -10% upkeep for ocean and sea elementals, merworms, and ship company, and then the ability of Iron-Handed Captain. Now, here's the big question. Will we get his Dragonship if we confederate him playing as other legendary lords? Maybe, maybe not. There's no indication of it in the lord effects. Like, if you look at Malachi, his Horde army is attached to him. So that remains to be seen with respect to that. I think it would be cool to have his Dragonships if you confederate him, but we'll find out on that subject. And then we also have his starting position, which is in the eastern colonies, in between Teclis, Imric, Kugaf, Krokgar, and Kairos. Oh, that's gonna be sweet. Anyway, let's take a look at Creative Assembly's blog on how he's going to play out. He is Ulthuan's greatest naval commander, and he begins his campaign in the southeastern quadrant of the Immortal Empire's map, in the waters of the Eastern Isles. It's on the other side of the world from Ulthuan, but distance is no object to Aislinn's loyalty. Leading a High Elf Sea Patrol, Aislinn is about to uncover a Druchii plot to invade his beloved homeland, and only the commander of the fabled Dragonships has the naval expertise to counter this threat. He's the hero Ulthuan needs, but perhaps not the one its cultured and privileged nobles desire, because of the brutal zeal with which he executes his office. However, Finnebar has a different perspective on this subject. Basically, the nobles of Ulthuan and the Lord really don't like Aislinn, but Finnebar is like, this guy gets stuff done. I need them, basically. Dragonships are no mere naval vessels. They are vast war platforms capable of developing their own infrastructure, mustering and housing many thousands of troops and transporting them at pace to precisely where they are needed. To meet and defeat the Druchii invasion, Aislinn will need to gather the rare resources required to build a fleet of these floating behemoths. No mean task. He'll need to curry favor with Ulthuan's greatest war leaders by capturing settlements and handing them over for stewardship. So he's capturing settlements and then giving them to another faction. He also has significant mobility. His forces perform lightning coastal strikes, capturing settlements, and developing elven colonies and outposts, expanding Ulthuan's interests. Now, campaign mechanics. Despite his naval focus, his campaign is still one of limited territorial conquest. While he's the commander of his own Dragonship, he must gather more resources to construct a fleet of 5 such vessels to deal with the Druchii invasion. And he must conquer enemy settlements and dedicate their ownership to the major legendary lords, the big 6, so to speak. So Tyrion, Teclis, Alariel, Alifanar, Imric, and Elfarion. Now, based on this, it could just very well be that this will be the last DLC for the High Elves, so hopefully Creative Assembly does not screw this one up, especially in terms of the racial rework. Because if you're a High Elven fan, this might be the last chance we get for any genuine High Elven improvement. While the settlements he captures become the property of the Elven nobles, well, not nobles, leaders anyway, he can still establish outposts and elven colonies within them, developing each to amass the resources he needs to fulfill his duties, building value and improving the output of his holdings. Now, not every settlement is granted. Some are taken as colonies capable of outfitting and enhancing the new Dragonships while unlocking bonuses to many aspects of his campaign and battle gameplay. When he grants a settlement, it always becomes an outpost. When he captures one, it always becomes a colony. But colonies are limited in number, making their development the crucial strategic choice. Now, on this subject, I'm not really fond of the idea of limited territory, because one, it stinks too much of the Changeling. One can argue it's similar to Nakai, sure. But here's the problem with this. Warhammer 3's risk in a campaign does boil down to holding a good amount of territory. Or, like we see with Khorne, the risk with a campaign like Khorne is that if you lose your main army, doesn't matter that you can get Bloodhost, doesn't matter that you can build a new one, but it is a genuine impact if you lose your main army as, say, Khorne or Beastman in your campaign, even though you have limited territories. And for a record, Beastmen don't necessarily work very well. Khorne does, but again, there is that risk aspect. However, if you do have limited territory but still have very safe core territories, and you don't have the downsides that you have in a Khorne campaign, because like in a Khorne campaign, losing an army means that its bloodletting is going down, means that its global recruitment is going down for a while. So there's a reason why when you're playing a Khorne campaign it feels great, but you take that mechanic away, and well, let's just say Nakai's campaign does suffer. And also we got to talk about the Confederation aspect. This really stinks of Nakai. Like I've said it before, I'll say again, this really seems similar to Nakai. But the problem that you have with that is Confederation. See, when you confederate other Legionary Lords as Nakai, you just gain their armies, but you don't gain their territory. In that campaign, that goes to your vassal. So how exactly that's going to play out for Aislinn is the big question mark. Anyway, so a new unique mechanic that he does have is Asur domination. So we can see over here that we have various choices with regards to Outpost, Dragonship, and Colony with Asur domination. It's a singular focus, conquering territory far from home, then returning that territory to the Lords of Ulthuan. The benefits of doing this are all wrapped up in the Asur domination panel, accessible via a button on the top screen UI ribbon. And then they generate a new resource called Dedication. Dedication is the currency you spend in Asur domination panel to upgrade various aspects of your dragon ships, outposts, and colonies. It's where you go unlock new dragon ships and settlement building chains, increasing your capacity to build new elven colonies. So you're going to capture territory, then you're going to build stuff up to get dedication, and with that dedication, you're going to unlock things. The big question mark is pacing. How long does it take? Is it going to be a situation that we've seen with, say, Chaos Dwarfs? Because I've mentioned this point before, it does seem similar to Chaos Dwarfs. But is it going to be similar to that, where the pacing is all over the place? The problem with Chaos Dwarfs is not that they're bad, they're very strong, but it's like you unlock things very slowly with influence in the panel. And with the Hellforge, you unlock things slowly initially, and then after like a certain period of time in the campaign, you're just unlocking things left and right. But by that point, the main value of a campaign, the main challenging aspect is over. So it ends up being just like, oh, I'm already powerful, let me get even more power. That's one of the big concerns that I do have right there. And also, this panel represents his contact with the Big Six and tracks how many settlements you've handled to each of them. So it's going to be, we're going to conquer a lot of territory, and then we're going to pass them off to different factions for various benefits. So we're going to travel a lot by my read of this, and we're going to be dealing with a lot of different things. There's a lot to explore. They offer benefits that are not only themed around them, but which enhance your forces in a specific way. There's different playstyles and different benefits, but for me personally, Alariel was a natural first choice for bestowing settlements upon. After giving her 6 elements, she gives you the Dawnstone, a precious gem which grants the wearer 200 barrier hit points. I'm like, Are you sure about that, Creative Assembly? Because I'm not sure Alariel is the one you want to focus on over here. Let me explain. I don't need to know any of the statistics, any of the benefits that these guys give you. But if it's a choice between all 6 of these in a campaign, and the decision basically revolves around the idea, okay, who am I going to give what? Alariel is the last choice. Like, I would pick Tyrion, I would pick Alifanar, especially, you know, some of the crazier benefits he has in his campaign. Like, if we're talking about themes like Tyrion, Alifanar, Teclis, Imric, Elfarion, maybe not so much with Elfarion, because, like, Elfarion's whole thing is that he's fighting Greenskins and Mistwalker units, so I'm curious to see how that's gonna play out. Also, because he's defense-oriented and maybe not your focus. But anyway, so I'm skeptical of this. Besides, one of the things to look here is the cooldown here. So if we have this button of consulting leaders for various rewards, then one of the things we are going to have to ask CA is which one's the best. Because this is the problem with these systems. And I'm reminded really of Gelt's mechanic. So Gelt can go with the various colleges of Magi and the colleges, and he can get different benefits. And there's a cooldown with that. Now, the reason it works for Gelt is because it's all individual cooldowns for each school. But here, if it's just a question like we consult a leader, it puts everyone on cooldown, then you know what's going to happen? We're going to figure out which one's the best, and there is one going to be the best, or 2 of them, maybe 3. But we're going to figure out which one's the best, and we're always going to use that. So, Fluff? Yes, probably. Maybe. We'll see. Then we can see the post-battle choice with capturing settlements. So we can establish an outpost, we can establish colony, though there is a limit here, right here. And we can also see some various things right here in terms of like the UI at the top right there. Various bits of information, unsure exactly what to make of that. But anyway, when he and his admirals conquer a settlement, they can choose which of the 6 legendary lords to gift it to. However, they also retain some local building rights to further his cause. For the most part, they'll be constructing small resource-generating outposts in these settlements, but if you capture and hold one, you may instead establish an elven colony, a larger sub-settlement whose chief purpose is to generate Dragonship supplies. We'll find out about that. Balancing with these kind of systems is going to be interesting. The other half provide defensive support function. Okay. A single outpost produces just a small amount of what Aislinn will require, but as he expands further and further and conquers more territory, the aggregate resources gained from an outpost can become quite significant. See, that is my concern, that text right there, because this exactly is what I'm worried about. One of the problems with High Elves at the moment in the game, and one of the problems in many campaigns, is this idea. You start slow, limited resources, and then you just expand vastly. But, again, the pacing of the campaign, there's no endgame to Warhammer 3. There's no thing to really throw yourself against. No massive empire, no vast resource, no real genuine threat. And yeah, it's like, oh, there's a Druchii invasion. What is that? Is that the Druchii endgame crisis? Oh, great, let's throw another endgame crisis. I'm sure that's going to be brilliant. No, they're not brilliant. Anyway, probably some events, we'll find out. Elven colonies are larger and more productive than outposts, while with more building slots. Yeah, but they're limited, so just because you have one building that's productive, like, this is the thing. You play a campaign normally. And you may expand very quickly, you may expand more slowly, but having severe limitations on how many territories you can take for real versus just taking shit and using it is generally going to put a limited thing. And reduces the risk you have in a campaign, because what do you care if all the territories that your allies have are lost? I'll just keep getting more ones. And really, because of the way the AI behaves, especially with military alliances, and also what the Golden Trio of Wolf One does, then yeah. And then we have Dragonships. They're the backbone of his tail. Towering, twin-hulled warp platforms are capable of producing many mighty armies. They're horde armies. They're attached to Aislinn and Lords. Yeah, that is a big ship. Anyway, so provide full recruitment options to any friendly vessels within their area. So they're Black Arcs. What else is there to say? And limited. I mean, I can't believe that, Lokir just spams Black Arcs. Aislinn is like, oh, I'll just get a couple of these. It's like, okay, I'll just look at Lokir. He spends dozens in a campaign, seriously. Because it's scalability, it's proper scalability. See, Dark Elves, unlike High Elves, the reason Dark Elves work so well is the fact that their early game is amazing, but then they also have scalability in terms of a massive empire, especially Lokir. They do have some issues with long-term units, but as a race, they work fantastically well. So what I'm reading here is not necessarily encouraging, by the way. It just feels like CA has an idea of how the game should be, and that idea is completely detached from how the game is actually fucking played. And I know there are people, at least within, community management teams that play the game, right? But when we say play the game, right, are they playing it well? Are they playing it on a high difficulty? Can they manage that effectively? Because the average campaign, I'm quite serious on this. Some people may disagree on this, but the average player that's currently playing Warhammer 3 plays a campaign anywhere between 50 to 80 turns. The figure, and that's based on polling I've done, based on also things Creative Assembly has said. You may disagree with that sentiment, but it is a factual sentiment. Now, I can do campaigns faster. That's irrelevant. My personal playstyle is relevant. The average is the one that's relevant. Anyway, so the Dragonships can be upgraded with much greater movement range and ability to replenish action points after using sea lanes or winning battles. And we do have sea lanes. So we do have the Eastern Colonies area. So that's, if you're wondering about this specific starting area, it's just kind of close enough to Emmerich and Kugaf. We'll see how the naval navigation works and if they've changed anything with regards to distances between various locations. They did post a picture on where it actually is. He does get the dragon, and he does get the sword and dagger combo. He's basically High Elf Lokir. Wonder if he's going to be as good as Lokir, or he's just going to be irrelevant. His base trait, Protector of the Seas, grants him a massive campaign movement bonus while at sea, and that's aside from any other campaign movement bonuses conferred by his other skills. Dragonship upgrades, Asur domination benefits, or embedded heroes. And it's his new right, the Invocation of Mathland, as well as providing buffs to ship company and sea monster units. This prior to the Lord of Storms and Seas has a chance of resurrecting any high elf units destroying the battle and returning them to full strength. I read this shit and I just think to myself, CA, the reforging system that you have for undead, that you have for demons, fucking sucks. Let me explain why it sucks, right? Now, I know we lose units in battle, right? We all do. Like, if anyone's going through a campaign and going through the idea that we are playing a campaign and just saying, oh, okay, we're never going to lose units. We do lose units. And sometimes it's fine, right? But let me tell you what's not fucking fine. This idea, this bullshit, that we somehow want it to happen. There is no player that plays Warhammer 3 at any point who wants a mechanic where he loses units in a battle and then revives them after the battle. No one. Absolutely one. This is the problem with demons. You are never going to fight in a campaign. You never want to be in a situation in either Unresolved or in manual battles where you're losing units and then resurrecting them after the battle. The reason you don't want to do so is not even the problem of the actual units themselves. Never mind the fact that if you lose units, the way the battles are set up. Let's cover this from a battle perspective. In a battle, the best way to win a battle is to take as little damage as possible and inflict as much damage on the enemy as you can. This is how High Elves play. Their entire ranged, magical, and melee playstyle is built purely on this idea. Their martial prowess is built around this idea of them taking little damage and maximizing the damage on enemies. And the reason you want to take less damage in battles is because of balance of power. The more damage you take versus the enemy, the longer the battle drags on, the more casualties you take. So this is the reason why people push like this. Now, sure, there are some people who don't care, some people whatever, but I'm talking about how the game is meant to be played and how a lot of people play it. And what's the natural incentive structure of the actual game? That's actually the more important thing. What does the game reward you for doing? Does it reward you for losing half your army and then resurrecting it? No. The reason it doesn't reward you is because on the context of the campaign map situation, the more units you lose in a battle, the weaker you are, the worse your faction strength is. The worse your faction strength is, the higher the chance that enemy factions will attack you. The higher the faction strength is, the less chance there is. This is one of the things we learn playing this game properly. And not even on Legendary, this applies on normal, it applies on hard, it applies on very hard. So I know this is a tangent, but CA seems to have their heads up their ass when they do this stupid shit, because we do not play like this. You do not know your own game, Creative Assembly. And the worst part is, you might say, okay, fair enough, they don't. But you know what's the worst part in all of this? That many people as YouTube content creators, on Reddit, on Discord, on forums, on Twitter, they say this stuff over and over and over again. And yet the people designing these campaign mechanics have no goddamn understanding of how people play their own game. Like, this is just like, that is very revealing to me about what's happening here with regards to this. And then we have Sea Helms, Caradrian. Yeah, okay, it's cool. So my read on all of this, here's my perspective. A lot of the stuff that we have, so we get monsters, units. So it seems to me that the people designing things from a thematic perspective and unit perspective and lord perspective from a battle point of view are doing a great job. The people who are handling the campaign mechanics have no damn clue what they're doing. Maybe that is indicative of what we saw with the Tomb King and Lizardman reworks, because yes, they are not great reworks, and it's like, oh, it's not really a proper update. I'm sorry, the problem with those reworks is not because of the limited scale, it's because of how they were balanced. They were designed not around how people actually play campaigns, but on some bullshit fantasy of what Creative Assembly wants people to play campaigns as. That's all I'm gonna say right here. Yeah, cool monsters. I'd certainly say the Sea Elemental looks fucking amazing. Mismade ship company. We'll see how useful the ship company is. Like, they're tier 1 infantry average melee stats. But why would you use them? Like, I know people have asked about melee, low-level melee infantry for high elves for a very long time. I know. But my question on this has always been, why would you care? Like, maybe some people can explain this to me. It's one thing if we had tier 1 melee infantry that had dual weapons. We already do with rangers, and they're useless. Or with gray weapons for armor piercing, which would be more useful, though, even then. But we have spearmen. And the thing is, it's not... You don't just build an army based on the idea. It's like, oh, I'm just going to mass melee units. Build an army around the main playstyle. Now, maybe Aislinn is different. I am very skeptical of that statement. But even if he is different, even if CA is trying to incentivize people to play with monsters and melee as high elves, I'm just going to say this, CA. The problem is with high elves, and the reason we don't do it as is range is just much better. Like, you build an army of spearmen, then you get Silver and Guard, then you get archers and Sisters of Avalorn, if you even get Sisters of Avalorn, and you build an army of high elven archers with light armor, spearmen, which you replace with Silver and Guards, and heroes, and it's a fucking good army. And you know what you do once and the reason it's a good army, just because it's great in combat, but it's also because it's really, really good at reducing the casualties you take. Melee armies can work, obviously. Khorne is a testament to that statement, really good. But melee armies only work within the context where a pure melee build is one of the best things you can do. This is the thing that works for Dark Elves, for instance, which we can use that. Black Ark Corsairs, as a full army, do work. But it doesn't work for High Elves. Because, again, we want to maintain faction strength. We want to... it can't work in a situation where the incentive structure for the player is to get some ranged units, get some melee. Pure melee only works within the context of pure melee. And we don't have good pure melee unless you've changed White Lions. Have you changed White Lions? Are White Lions much better units? Are they available at a lower tier? Are Lore Masters or Sword Masters of Hoeth a tier 3 unit, for instance? We don't know. These are the kind of things that actually matter. And then we get Oceanids. We'll find out about that. By the way, that image with Oceanids apparently was bugged. At least it's bugged right now. I probably could just refresh this page and might get something like that. And also, it's like, they're giving us even more range reason. Like, let me tell you what the Doom stack for High Elves will be. You will get Spearmen and Archers, and then until the point you can get Skycutters. If they're tier 2, we will completely skip out and just do what Dwarves do already, which is Jarros, just with these guys. If they're tier 3 or tier 4, especially the Ballista version, then things change. But basically, melee, all the melee, cool melee stuff you have, cute. We won't use it. We'll use these, because that's how things work. You can't make a varied army work between ranged and melee because of red skill lines as well, Creative Assembly. That's the thing. You can add as many cool units you want, but the question is, do you want to use both melee and ranged? Then it's better to invest in ranged skill lines. Are you going to use pure melee? Obviously, you invest in pure melee. But you can't do both. That's the problem of how your systems in the game work. That's all I had to say. Costine signing out.